Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back. Tom Bradshaw from Seabach, and I'm here today with Tate Linden. And Tate, you've created a brand new tool, and I love tools, but I'm the kind of person that goes to the hardware store and sees an interesting tool and buys it and doesn't really know what it's for.
hmm
Could you talk a little bit about the creation of this tool and the value that you're bringing to organizations?
The tool and the work that it's based on, I come out of the communications field, strategic communications. So I'm dealing with crises, with branding, advertising, marketing. Anytime you need to change the behavior of an audience, that's what I was hired to do. And I developed a system that allowed me to do that in a way that created highly predictable positive results, measurable results. Obviously, we'll talk quite a bit about that today. As I was doing that work and getting the results that my clients were looking for, I started to realize when I looked back at the organization itself that as the results were coming in, the positive results, increases in clients, et cetera, that I was adding additional load onto that organization. In one case, they had 5 clients when they hired us. And within a year and a half, it was thousands. And
Wow.
the growing pains that that organization had to go through, it was chaos. And so I started to realize that if we are going to bring behavior change to the external audience, what's going to happen internally? And so the one that I mentioned to you, that was a success story. And while I cannot take credit for all of it, we did the branding and initial communications for Bamboo HR. That's the big success story. We also did one for a insurance broker that inside of 6 months had collapsed because they went from having a handful of clients to getting dozens every single day. And it swamped them.
It's a
They,
great thing, though.
yeah. If there's a way to fail, at least you feel good, I guess, failing.
One of the things we've talked about in the past is, and to me, it's that old, phrase of insanity is keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting there to be a different change, or
Yeah, a different
expecting things to
result.
be,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I see the same thing where change is initiated, but then we seem to fall back and we're so reliant on. Oh, and I've heard this so many times. Well, that's not the way we do it. Or, we've done it like this in the past. So, how is this tool going to keep me on track?
The tool itself becomes useful once there are patterns. If it's a one-off, something comes out of nowhere and you try to address it and you fail to address it, we don't really have the picture that we need to be useful. Where we are useful is when you have an outcome, a result that repeats. The way that we keep you on track is by helping you understand, all right, you're in a new pattern, whatever this pattern is, we see it. And the traditional response is, let's think of a guy walks into an ER, like emergency room, and his thumb is bleeding.
Right.
And so they treat it. And the ER's job is exactly that, stop the bleeding. Well, tomorrow he shows up again and his thumb is bleeding. And then he does it the next day. What's happening here, and I guess it's not quite keeping you on track. What our system does is it says when you start seeing the same thing happening over and over, this is no longer a behavioral or a performance problem. Something about the system that you're relying on is either enabling or causing this thing to happen. So
Right.
it could be that the guy is a handyman, and to be able to work faster, he took the safety guard off of his saw. And that's somewhat equivalent to the kinds of things that people do in organizations when they're like, why does this rule exist? And they blow through it. In terms of keeping you on track, what this does is it's actually looking at what are your patterns and what is the outcome that is being produced. Our entire tool basically says if something repeats, that's no longer random, it's a pattern. And
Right.
patterns come from how systems are set up. And that's actually the very first question of we've got a set of 5 questions our tool asks. And we encourage people, whether or not you use our tools, we encourage people to ask these questions, answer them for your own case, and you're going to find that it's going to stop feeling random for you. It's going to stop feeling like, oh my God, all we can do is put out fires, pick up drop balls. That's my entire job. And that's kind of why we developed it in the way we did. Because, yes, once you've got that pattern, If it's caused by the system, it doesn't matter if you can bandage the guy's thumb every single day, but he's coming back.
Yeah, and I
So
don't want to see him coming back anymore.
yeah, yeah,
Well, you mentioned the five questions, so maybe we should go through that and people can start asking themselves the
yeah,
questions.
yeah. The first one is, what's the issue, the outcome that keeps repeating? And we can come back to some business examples. I've looked a bit at Boeing, and they had a door failure back in the day. The issue or outcome that keeps repeating at Boeing, you had whistleblower complaints, people talking about the pressure to deliver, the increased demand for production, where they were very close to capacity and trying to massively raise output on top of that. And so the pattern was continually seeing these errors creep out. The next thing is, what is the system with the repeating issue? What is it protecting? And that's an odd way to think about it. And maybe we should spend a little bit of time on this. Every system protects something, intentionally or otherwise. So it's going to protect speed or cost or safety, stability. There is something that that system says, we are hanging on to this, if nothing else. And so when there is pressure brought on, when that demand comes in and people have to start putting in overtime and everybody's stressed, what's the one thing you're going to protect? And at Boeing, it appears, I can't confirm, it appears that the thing they protected was speed. When you have a system that protects speed over everything else, and in this case, not safety, even though safety was a priority, you end up with the potential for a door to fall out of a plane.
And none of us want to see that. Uh,
No, certainly.
Other questions, or was that the last one?
So that was number two. Number three, are we built for the load that we are under? Most systems, you design them for a certain level of demand. And when the load changes and the structure doesn't, things start to break. Like the insurance company I was talking about that was super happy as stuff came in and then realized we don't have any of the back end to be able to actually process all of this stuff and reach out. Or with Boeing, when you say we're going to increase our production by 20%, 30%, and we're already stretched, were we built for that? And clearly based on outcomes, I would say not particularly well. Question number four is, where is the system actually beginning to strain and break? This is different than where the strain shows up. What we look at is, where did the system itself begin to strain or break? What allowed this to happen? And if the system can't carry the load, where is that? And we're probably going to find it upstream of the performance. So you're looking at, is it the systems, the literal systems that they use? The software, is the software enforcing and making people go through steps to prevent this? Are there rules established that the software is enforcing in terms of the purpose of the organization? What is the priority? What should the priority be? So at the purpose level, and I think that's probably where Boeing's issue is, at the purpose level, whether or not it was intended, employees of the organization felt that the purpose is put stuff out fast. And they did everything else that they could aligned with that. And so even though the official mission likely was about safety and integrity, in practice that had shifted. And so we would need to go back to that to figure out, okay, so what do we do? We've been saying this, but we're not doing it. How do we reinforce that, create the rules, adjust the systems so performance is in line? And then what is it that needs to change first? In organizations, it's really tempting to say, we're going to fix this all at once. And it's an excellent way to get a plan together that will sit on the shelf forever and never be used. That what we look to do is figure out what needs to change at that lowest level, that causal level, the purpose, the rules, the system. What has to happen first to enable anything else to stick? It is pretty easy to create a new policy. It is very hard to have that policy change behavior in a lasting way. Hey, look, we've got this new board where we want your ideas. And the first week you got 4 ideas, the next week you got 1, and then it stops being used because it wasn't reflective of what the organization was. Those are the 5 questions. There's a bonus 6th question, which I'm not going to go into too much here, but it's, why will leadership notice this and why will they take action? Because if we don't know that, They're not going to. So once we answer these first five, we have to be able to go into somewhere an executive's office and say, in a compelling way, yes, we can keep managing the guy's finger, but let's put the cover back on the drill
Yeah.
and get them to understand that that is the thing that the organization needs to do.
Sounds really cool, but one of the things that pops into my head as you're describing it is organizations often will have issues, and you're right, they don't know where the actual cause is. And so I can actually see this work in this tool being incredibly beneficial. But I also sometimes see organizations who have success and they don't know why. So,
Yeah.
can you use this same tool to show an organization where the success is happening and how to increase that to build a better organization?
The capability to do that is there. It is an improvement oriented tool. It is going to look for interventions that align with the kind of organization that you have, the load that you're under, and whatever that first change is.
Well, it's such a good tool for getting down to the core
Yeah.
and finding out what's really going on. And yeah, we're problem solvers.
Yeah.
So we like to take care of the issues, but I also see organizations who have no idea why they're successful.
Yeah.
They are. So I do see potentially in the future this helping that crowd as well. Where it is right now, what's the next step? How do you want to see this tool being used or incorporated? What are you
Yeah.
hoping to see here?
We have spent the last, so I've got about a 20-year career developing the concepts that we're using. And the last 4 or 5 years, I have been doing consulting work through HR, through IO, directly working within organizations, applying this work. And so consultatively, we've been doing this for quite a while. What's changed is we now have software. A weakness of consulting is if you don't like the client, if you're in a bad mood, if it's a Tuesday, your findings can be different. And I struggled with that, trying to figure out, am I sure this is the right thing, that it's based purely on theory, or am I flavoring it because of the relationship that I have? And so we are shifting to software, logic based. We've got the first 3 months of work that we normally do, which is exhaustive, deep research. We can compress that down to 2 to 3 weeks because all of the findings that we have already mathematically produced what all of the different things can be, lined them up with the interventions available, and worked out which ones fit which situation so
Right.
that all of the research is, I can't remember how many thousands of different profiles there are, but there are many thousands of different profiles. And we have logically grouped these so that depending on your profile, you are only seeing what can work for you. So where we are, we're looking for pilots. We have tested it. We have given demonstrations of it, and we have consulted using the stuff that's in the tool. And now what we're looking for are opportunities where mid-size organizations that have some challenges and are willing to have us come in and help them identify and look for a way forward. We are going to, I guess the word is productize. Right now, no one else other than us can touch that software. And we can show it to you, but we are the people that operate it. And what we want to be able to do is have a front end. And so the pilot programs are going to help us fund the development of a front end and fleshing out of the tool.
The CBOX audience is growing, and we're seeing more and more international IOs, especially joining the discussion. I'm assuming that because it's not really based on the laws of business in any particular country, that I could use this in Canada, that someone in Europe or in Asia could use this tool as well, because we're still all people.
Conceptually, the answer is yes. It's based on studies that are based in Asia, Europe, and North America. I would expect it to be effective there just because that's where I pulled the initial findings about, oh, this is how this thing works. But there are going to be some areas where it should work, but I don't have data that shows, yep, in Africa, this is going to be effective.
Is this a tool that's not only going to improve my bottom line, but improve the culture of the organization as well?
You certainly asked the super easy questions. I believe the answer is yes. Culture is an interesting concept because many consultancies exist to help you improve culture.
Right.
And I view culture as an output. It is what is your organization built to do? How is it built to do it? Building up from your awareness through your purpose, your rules, your systems, etc. The results of all of that, when you see it, that's your culture. And you can do it intentionally. You can create systems and rules that bring about that culture, but we don't just focus on culture. We focus on the things that lead to it. So if you tell us morale is lousy, turnover is high, we really have to fix the culture, our response through our software is likely going to be, you are correct in your observations. And yes, we can do this thing, but the work to change the culture doesn't happen at the culture level. You don't just say, hey, free lunches for everybody. That
Right.
doesn't fix your culture. You need to go back down and figure out, are people connecting to our purpose? Are our rules actually getting people to follow the right path that reinforces things? And so we build from whatever that lowest layer is to produce the culture that allows people, encourages people to stay, to get the results, to want to be there.
Well, let me ask you this too, because your background is in communication, and we often talk about on Work Cookie communication, because quite often that is almost like the linchpin that things don't happen or they happen in a bad way because communication has suffered, that one side's not talking to the other. Um, so, what I'm hearing with the tool is you're making sure the communication is improved along the way as well, so that almost the hidden information is revealed. Does it help? Because almost every organization has communication issues.
Mhm.
Um, so, how does your background as a communication person uh, affect this work? And will it also improve my communication in my organization?
I do have a background in communication. It absolutely played a major role in developing this. There was a thing that it wasn't actually said by Gandhi, but based on his work. His phrase was, happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. It sounds like something you'd see on a bumper sticker. I acknowledge that. But I looked at it and I thought, there's math. This isn't just a happy thing, there's actual math. And I started breaking it apart. And so, yes, communication is critical here. If you think about the things we think, say, and do, well, saying is communicating. And
Right.
so let's connect what we say to what we do. If we do what we say, we are dependable. If we say what we do, we are clear, explicit. If we say what we believe, we're transparent. If we believe what we say, we're honest. And so you start seeing that communication is basically at the center of all of the things that we want people to think about us. My background is in comms. It allowed me to see this. It allowed me to understand that there was something bigger here. All of the other pieces of what our tool does, of what the theory says, they are all built to create an organization that necessarily communicates well for whatever its purpose is. In some healthcare organizations, it has to be siloed. Doesn't matter if it would help to be able to share with everybody. Legally, you can't. And so you have, depending on what your organization is built to do, in the emergency room, exceptionally important that everybody knows everything going on around them. There's like this constant awareness. Whereas if you're in case management at that same hospital, it's you, it's the doctor. And so it's important to communicate, but it's really tiny. You've got a small
Right.
group. And so, yes, it is not, you always need to communicate with everybody. It is your communication needs to match the load that you're under. Figure out what it is that needs to happen.
Well, and this is the thing that's striking me as we go through this, and I get a better grasp of the tool, is the tool itself is specifically designed to focus on an issue. But if people accept sort of the mantra of the program of doing things this way, it's going to improve the organization. There's going to be other causal secondary effects, such as you might see communication improve. You will
Mhm.
probably see a shift in culture. So, isn't it true to say that, I'm going to use this tool to look at a specific issue, but it's going to have an effect throughout my organization, or at least those people who are involved with it, that actually might build a better organization.
Yes, the idea is not that we are going in to fix a single symptom. If we're seeing a symptom, chances are really good that whatever it is down the line that enabled that problem to come about is also having other effects. And so as we back down through the organization and get to wherever the issue starts, anything that touches that system has the potential to improve. So yes, you're right.
Very intriguing. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of people listening who are going to want to go, how do I get in touch with you and find out more? So,
Mhm.
where are you guys at? What's the stage of that right now? Where, for example, an IO psychologist, how do they get in touch with you and start to explore?
Yeah, you can get in touch with us at hello@stokefire.com. We want to engage with just about everybody. We have had questions come in about people who have heard what we're doing and want to be certified in it. That's an area
Wow.
that we're looking at. We fully understand that even when the tool is fully automated, there's going to be additional work that needs to happen in helping an organization sort of walk through it
Right.
and as they ask questions, be able to help contextualize. So even though much of what the tool does has automated elements, if we remove all humans from it, it loses a lot of its impact. It requires facilitation. This is major organizational change we're trying to build. And if you do it without a human, the likelihood that it actually gets done is very low.
Can you describe the perfect pilot?
Yeah, mid-size organization, 40 to 50 million in revenue, or I'm not quite sure how in a nonprofit side you would start looking at that, but a sizable nonprofit. And the pilot would not be for the whole organization. It would likely be for a division. And so
Right.
that's what we're looking for is an organization that has a division that could benefit from this. It is very low risk to participate. If for that division they find it effective, as we believe it will be, then we would be able to scale for the rest of the organization.
Well, the early adapters often see quite good achievements. Thank you very much, Tate. Anything you want to add before we wrap this up?
One other thing that I guess I can mention, if you'd like to learn more about this and don't necessarily know if it's right for your organization, I am happy to talk remotely to groups who are interested in hearing the theory and sort of walking through how it might apply to their organization. Oftentimes, for mixed audiences, like associations, et cetera, there's absolutely no cost for that. I'm happy to do it. And if you want us to do something custom for your organization, we can do that too.
Thank you very much.
All right.
And thanks once again. And thank you for joining us. Once again, I'm Tom Bradshaw with Seabach, and it's been an absolute pleasure.